Hello, welcome to today's events for the Diverse Perspectives in Digital Media and Design 2021 Speaker Series. I'm Heather Elliott Familaro, and I'm the Department Head for Digital Media and Design at the University of Connecticut. Here at DMD, we have 7 undergraduate concentrations across the full digital media spectrum: film production, animation, interactivity, business, and the humanities. And in our department, we value and celebrate our students' diverse backgrounds, and we support their development both as individuals and as professional media creators. And this Diverse Perspectives in Digital Media and Design series is one of the celebration of those shared values. We would like to begin today's event by acknowledging that the land which we typically gather on here in Storrs, Connecticut is a territory of the Mohegan, Mantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill Pagosset, Nipmuc, and Lenape peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We thank them for their strength and resilience and protecting this land, and aspire to uphold our responsibilities according to their example. Today's event features a panel with our 4 guest artists: Paola, Calvo, Jen Holness, Kelley, and Leah Purcell, followed by a Q&A featuring questions from the virtual audience. Please take advantage of the YouTube chat box to submit your questions, which we will try to answer during the discussion. I'd like to introduce today's faculty moderator, Nikki Stier Justice, who is a visiting professor with us here in Digital Media and Design and the head of distribution for Buffalo 8. As an acquisitions and distribution executive, she's able to offer some really fantastic insights into the buyer's perspective during the festival experience. So this is going to be an incredible panel, and we have a lot to say. So Nikki, let me go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Heather. And it is my extreme pleasure today to welcome our special guests and our partners with CherryPicks. Meg McCarthy is the content and programming executive at CherryPicks and my co-moderator for tonight's panel. So welcome, Meg.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nikki and Heather. I just want to say it's such a pleasure to be here today among such talented and inspirational women. And I'd love to take a minute to introduce them and discuss how their backgrounds have shaped who they are as filmmakers. So let's get started. First up, Kelley, you have a bachelor's degree in anthropology, a minor in film and classical civilizations. You were an NCAA Division I lacrosse team captain and won a Student Academy Award. Woo! You are now working in a very competitive, male-dominated industry. How do you feel your collegiate experiences have influenced your approach to filmmaking and helped you to succeed in this industry? Kelley?
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you all for having me. It's an honor to even be on this panel. The college experience, let's see. Here's the thing, with filmmaking, it's just storytelling. And any experience that you have in your life, particularly college, because college is extremely impactful, you can put into your storytelling. So you don't have to be a film major. You could have studied like history. I studied archaeology, and then I switched into film and storytelling. You could have been in medical school. You could have been in whatever you want. And all of that, when you start to want to shift into filmmaking and storytelling, every single thing and experience that you've had from your college, your undergrad education, and all your experiences in life is what helps to shape you as a unique storyteller, because no one else has lived your life, and you sharing your experiences are what other people can relate to in your stories. So if you are in school now and you just love economics, we'll take econ, take it. But you also love storytelling, there are no rules. Do not allow anyone to ever box you in. You can study what you want in undergrad and then go on to get your master's degree in film and learn how to storytell. So every single experience you gain in college and throughout life after that, the great thing about filmmaking is that it's all incorporated. You can use it for everything.
Oh, I love that. Amen to that. Well, let's take a sneak peek at your fantastic South by Southwest film. I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
Hey, beautiful, how you doing? You all right? You a preacher? This your church? I ain't never seen a reverend in skates.
Incoming call from Sugar Lips. Incoming call from
Said my
Sugar
car's
Lips.
going off because that's
Incoming call
Hold
from
on.
Sugar Lips. Call declined.
it's messed up. I apologize. It kept beeping.
Danny, girl, your crazy ass still skating.
What is up?
Oh man, you know I can't call it. How you doing?
I'm good, you know. It's just me and Wes now.
It's too hot for hugging Mama.
That's a fair point. I got shorted today, and then that's why you see me going around doing post pals and everything, because I just need to get this apartment. Where are my wontons?
I didn't see any wontons on your order.
Maybe you dropped them while you were skating.
I'm gonna be back at 5 o'clock, okay?
And then can we sleep inside?
Yes, of course we can sleep inside. Just kidding, because we always sleep inside.
Mommy, can we go home now?
But you love camping. You used to camp with Daddy all the time.
I know, but we didn't camp this long.
Danny, you live on the side of the road in a tent?
She's just a little girl. I don't want her to know this stuff.
I can get you the rest soon. I really need this place.
I'm sorry, Danny. It's not enough.
You ain't got to be out here in those skates. You can come with me. There's a little something for you. Make your next move your best move, baby.
Thanks, Daddy.
Have I ever told you about angel wishes? You take Daddy's ring and you say, I wish that Wes would give me a big smile. It works.
Danny, wait, are you okay? You guys good?
I'll be right there for you. Right there for you.
Well done, Kelley. And you
Thank
said,
you.
are you allowed to make any announcements yet as far as how it's?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we just won an award at South by. South by recognized us with the special jury award for hyphenate storyteller, which funny thing goes back to what I was saying before we screened the trailer is don't let anyone box you in. You can do what you want. So like in life, okay? Not just filmmaking. When we started making this movie, I just woke up one day in the summer and was like, look, we got to make a movie. We can't sit around in this pandemic and just waste time. There's a way we can do this safely. Okay, Kelley, but we can't cast. Okay, so then we're going to act in it. And everyone in that movie is crew. Like everyone are friends and crew and family. And we just made the movie. So I had to act, I had to direct, I had to write, I had to produce, I executive produced, just did it all. And I hadn't done that before. And then now it won this award at South by Southwest. It's been don't let anything or anyone limit you. If it's in your heart to do it, because it's there for a reason.
Wow. And what was the turnaround for all of that, for idea to script completion to beginning production?
The turnaround was crazy. So when I came to my girls, who we all went to USC Film School together for our masters, came to my girls, Angelique Molina, who co-directed with me, and Roma Kong, and then my friend, writing partner, Dion Cole, and our other producer, Capella Fahum. I went to them and in late July and said, look, we need to make something. These are the resources I have. This is what we could do. And then we came up with a whole concept. From there, I told them, we don't have time to write a script. We're going to have to, the way we got to shoot this has to be like Sean Baker with Tangerine, where it's a lot of improving and just guerrillaing and stealing those shots on the streets. And then also my friend Qasim Basir and Samantha Tanner, who had a film at Sundance last year called A Boy, a Girl, a Dream with Omari Hardwick and Megan Good. They just wrote an outline and shot it, and it ended up at Sundance. And I was like, so why not? Let's just do it. So we outlined it. And then we went 2 weeks later, we were picture up. So from the moment I had the idea, 2 weeks later, we were filming. And then we moved straight into editing in we shot for 14 days, and then we went straight into editing, and we edited for about a month, and we picture locked and submitted to all the festivals. We were trying to hit the festival deadlines. And then we went into all the sound design and the mixing and the VFX and all that stuff. So we ended up finishing this feature in under 6 months. So we were flying.
That's amazing. And I love that you're kicking it off with such great advice for students and aspiring filmmakers. And that I want to talk a little bit to Paola as well about that, because a lot of students in the audience are hoping to leverage their educational experience into a career in film. And Paola, you did just that, turning your graduate film Violently Happy into an award-winning success story. What was your experience in getting that film made, and how did you then use it as a launching pad for the rest of your career as a documentarian?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, first of all, and thank you for this wonderful group of powerful women. It feels super nice to be here tonight. About my beginnings. Well, for me, let's say, it was very important to be part of a film school. I was born in Venezuela, in Caracas, and I grew up in Madrid, in Spain, and I wanted to study film. And at some point, I realized the film schools in Spain are very expensive, and my family couldn't afford the prices of the film schools. So, and I really think that education has to be for free. And by chance, I could speak German, and I discovered Berlin, and I found this wonderful film school in Berlin, where I applied as a cinematographer, actually. And then everything began. Like, I began learning this, meeting wonderful people and wonderful teachers. And the amazing thing of the film school where I was that finally I had an idea of making a film, and they allowed me to make the film as a director. So even though, there are these ideas that Germany is like very strict in the bureaucracy and stuff, it's also very open and very, very, fluid somehow. So I did this film, which at the beginning I didn't know if I want to make the film or not or whatever. So finally I applied in the film school, and then I could finish it up. I was able to apply for some fundings from the German government, and then small fundings for film school projects. And then, it happened that way, that even though the film is a little bit, let's say, it was a difficult film. It was a film I made with all my passion and all my love. And because as we were saying before, I just wanted to tell the story of the protagonist I met. It was a documentary. I managed to bring it out and to show it to an audience. So it was very important for me to go through the traditional structures, let's say. I had a German distributor who will bring the film into the cinemas. And with this idea, like being a German production, bringing the film into the cinemas, this helped the project to have some, resonance. And because of that, then the film was moving in some international festivals, and this was very important. And at some point, I managed to have a sales agent who will then take care internationally of the film. And it was a very interesting trip, let's say. It was also tough to realize how hard the industry is. And it was a reality shock also, because you come into the industry, it's your first film, you think, oh, my film's in cinema, everything is gonna be amazing, and I don't know. And it is not that big, or it was not that big with the film. But it was good. It was good to have this first step into the industry. And it made me, that was the important thing, because this film was a little bit, let's say, it was not a big film, but it generates some resonance. And this gives me the possibility to make my second film, which is now Luchadoras, being shown in the festival. So So yeah, it was, I think, being part of a film school gave me the possibility to be part of the industry. So if you have the chance to study and to go through that structure, this is gonna help it's gonna make it easier, let's say. Of course, there are other structures which you can follow, and you don't need a film school for, not at all. You don't need a film school for anything, because what you learn in film school is just to tell a story, but the story have to be in your inner system somehow, the way Kelley was saying. So you don't need a film school, no way, you don't need it. But if you have it, it's gonna help you. And this, in my case, was super helpful.
Wonderful. And I would love to share a trailer for your film, Luchadoras.
¡Porque viva se la llevaron! ¡Porque viva se la llevaron!
México, Ciudad Juárez, la ciudad más peligrosa del mundo.
Tenía 31 años, era empleada de maquiladora.
Estos tipos vienen y nos llevan y nadie se va a dar cuenta.
Llegó a Ciudad Juárez, en la frontera norte de México, a trabajar como obrera en las maquilas cuando apenas tenía 15 años.
Aprendimos a vivir con el dolor.
Una mujer va saliendo de un trabajo en la noche en una maquiladora en Ciudad Juárez y es asesinada. Muchas mujeres tienen la misma historia.
¿Se vale soñar, hermana? ¿Hay que cumplir tus metas?
Claro. ¿Quién nos protege? ¿O en quién podemos confiar?
Estamos aquí para visibilizar las violencias machistas y en contra del feminicidio. No tenemos miedo, estamos organizadas y reunidas.
¡Porque viva se la llevaron! ¡Porque viva se la llevaron!
Thank you, Paola. What a wonderful film. I can't wait for the whole world to see it and to learn the story of these incredible female fighters that you've documented. Next up, we have the wonderful Jen Holness. You are a writer, producer, and director, the only Black woman in Canada to win an CSA for writing. You were the 2021 Indie Producer of the Year. You've won numerous festival awards, and now you have your first feature directorial debut playing at South by Southwest. Can you please share with us how you started a career in film? And how that evolved into your role as a first-time feature director at this year's festival.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I'm so thrilled to be here. I was saying earlier that this is one of the festivals that I've always wanted to attend. And of course, I was lucky enough to get selected during a pandemic. It's okay. I'm still happy, But here's the thing. I did not actually go to film school. I grew up in a typical Caribbean household. My mother, Jamaican parents. And you had to become a doctor or a lawyer. So of course I went to university and I got a specialized honors in policy analysis. So I'm very analytical, apparently. And I met my partner in university, and I knew I was completely unhappy. And I was asked to apply to law school because my grades were really great and this kind of a thing. And I knew I didn't want to do that. And so my partner, being that he was in film studies, I thought, oh my God, I've been writing my whole life as a kid. I lived for movies and storytelling. Storytelling has always been something that just felt like who I am as a human being and how I interacted in the world. And so I thought, oh, what the heck? Let me try this. And so I started out sort of like, because of course my partner was a dude and he was the director, of course. And so he started, I guess, writing and directing, and then I was co-writing with him. And then we realized, wait a minute, I'm actually a really good writer, but I was also producing everything for our company and for others and so forth. And so for my whole career, I was producing. So that's why I think I produced maybe about 6 TV and feature documentaries, 7. But this is my my feature debut as a documentary. And so that was a long process, I think, whereby having always been creative, having always been just mad and passionate about storytelling and documentary filmmaking, in actual fact, I kind of didn't really embrace that side of me until, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, because I actually have 3 daughters, 2 of them who are older teens. One is 19 in university, so for all the young folk. And then I have a 17-year-old who's about to enter into university, and I have a 14-year-old. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I was sort of like at home, and my daughters were talking, and they it's Canada. So there's only 1 million Black people in Canada. And in their classes were none. So they had a lot of white friends. And there was a lot of conversation about Black women or Black girls and beauty. And I was overhearing conversations where their white friends were like, man, I love your lips. They're so gorgeous. And, and their booties. And I was like, what? When I was growing up, like full lips was like, it was like, no, nobody wanted full lips. And while in the Black community, people did appreciate the Holness butt, it was not necessarily something that was loved or coveted. So it was like, what? And that and then also just understanding my daughters were also struggling with some of the stuff that I struggled with as a young girl, like so many years ago. I just felt like I had to, it just seemed crazy to me. And so the story of Black women in beauty, and just looking at the fact that nothing comprehensive in my mind had been done that looked at the arc of this experience that we've gone through and are still going through. And so that was kind of that's what actually led me here. So I guess 3 years ago, I got my first bit of development. And, while it wasn't quick and dirty like, Kelley, which was amazing, it was a 3-year process, which is, I think, fairly tight for docs. And there were moments where we didn't actually have money to fund things. And I was like, okay, I gotta find some money. I'm gonna go and shoot this thing. I'm gonna make it happen. So there was a lot of that. And there was a lot of, okay, well, you know what? I don't need to have a salary right now because just to get the film made. And because it was really important to me to make this film. And so and then I actually sent in, I think like a fine cut to the festival. And they selected it on a fine cut because I actually locked picture December 18th and I finished the film like a week and a half ago.
Incredible. Well, we're so thankful that you entered the space. So happy and thankful. Here's a look at your powerful and educational first feature. Go ahead.
I think you have to understand with all of these images, it's much like going through life, looking at yourself in a cracked mirror. The mirror is cracked and it's warped and it's distorted, like when you go to a fun house. And you're saying, that's not who I am. That's not who I know myself to be. But every media image you see, that's what's getting reflected back to you. You're saying, no, that's not how I am. And then when you get angry about it and you try to assert your own individuality, people say, well, see, that's actually who you are.
And I should say that I don't have a trailer yet. That's a clip from the movie. We're working on a trailer because we just finished the film. So yeah, so thank you.
I think it's still a very powerful clip at showing what to expect for the rest of the feature, and something that's very necessary right now for young girls especially to be able to watch in this climate where we're just constantly being judged on social media in particular. So Jen, thank you so much for that. I wanted to introduce our last panelist, but certainly not least, Lee Purcell, who is an internationally acclaimed playwright, screenwriter, director, novelist, actor, and a cultural icon and activist. In fact, Australian Financial Review named you as one of Australia's top 10 culturally influential people because she shows white audiences to see from an Aboriginal perspective. Lee, can you speak to your journey in film and what made you choose this medium as a conduit for change?
Yeah. Firstly, ladies, I'd like to apologize for my lateness. I got my days wrong, I got the time wrong. I was enjoying a cup of tea, then I went, I should check my emails. I've got a talk coming up later and I'm panicking about it. I'm a Luddite when it comes to computers. So my apologies, sorry I missed your talk, Kelley, and Paola, I came on the end of yours, but so happy to be invited to this amazing panel. So thank you. I too never went to acting school, writing school, directing school. I came from, my mother was Aboriginal, my dad was white, but he wasn't around in my life. My mother was a single parent to 7 children. She raised many nephews and nieces. She looked after her crippled mother and her father. So she was my mother, my father, my hero. In Mergen, where I grew up in a very small country town, there was the Aboriginal community that my mother was born into. My grandmother was part of the stolen generation. So she was shifted from her traditional lands when she was about 5 years old and dumped on what they called a dumping ground. It was a government experiment of the time, 1910, and she was considered subhuman in paperwork. So then my mother was born and grew up on the mission, and then my mother had an opportunity because of her father. They left the reserve, I guess you could call it, because he got some work with some non-Indigenous people in the town. So I grew up in the township. So when I came out this color, I wasn't black enough to be black and I wasn't white enough to be white. I was yellow, and we walked our own line and had to make our own world. Of course, I've got like people look at me, but I grew up black because that's all I knew. That was my mother's family that showed me the love and the kindness and gave me a culture that cemented me when I was 14 and running off the rails going, who am I? And thankfully, my mother said, you can be whatever you want to be. So I decided to find my culture. My mother was from a lost generation where they couldn't speak language, couldn't practice culture. So, and then us younger ones, being this color, who were supposed to like cross over, forget about our Indigenous heritage, but we all just grasped it. We got coolamans full of mixed culture to cement me. So once I found that grounding, I realized from a very young age, I was about 5 years old, there's a photo of me playing my brother's guitar, singing a blues version of Humpty Dumpty. So I grew up around performers. I had an auntie that would sing. She had a great strum on her guitar, very fancy, write her own music. This is back in the 50s, unheard of, or even earlier in those days, of a black woman doing that. So I was brought up around these amazing storytellers. And I was only talking to an aunt the other day, and she said, us in our community, if we were back in the old days, we are the storytellers. And so storytelling is in my DNA. I was blessed, the last of the generations, to sit around elders' feet and hear their stories, the hardships, the good times. And then thank goodness, the one thing I did inherit from my father is he had a great memory. At 95 years old, he was still capable to recall. So thank goodness I've got a great memory for that recall. And then when I decided, I started out acting first, but I never went to any school. So I did a lot of observation. I would sit on set and I'd watch the director. I had an opportunity to work with amazing actors that showed me how you go through a script. I would be sitting beside them, watching over their shoulder what they were doing. I told a little lie to get that job, but I got it, and I made it. I ran with it and made sure I looked at every opportunity that I could get out of it. And then I would sit and hang with the crew, and they would let me, they thought, okay, you're not the usual actor that runs off to a green room. And I would sit and watch, and they'd let me set up a shot, and I'd watch how the director would talk to people and said, I can help explain that, especially if there's other Indigenous people around. And then I started looking at them writing stories for my character when it was me that was filling up their ideas of what it was to be an Aboriginal woman. And I went, hang on a minute, I can do this. I don't need you to tell my stories. And I said, when it comes from me, it comes from an authentic place, because I've seen my mother go through it. I've seen her tears. I've seen her laughter at things. I've witnessed my grandmother's listening to her stories. And so all of my work is based on what I know. And because that's my heart, that's my soul. And that fills me up. And I'm glad. I don't know whether it's because I'm a Leo. I don't know whether it's because my mother and my grandmother were silenced, and I knew that I was born at the time that I had a voice. I just stepped forward and just went, I can do this. I'm going to give it a good hot shot, and I'm not going to step back. I'm just going to keep stepping up. And then my partner, who's Bain Stewart, another Indigenous man, we met, and thank goodness, because he's been a great support in encouraging me. When we first met, we've been together 30 years, and he's also the producer of the film and of our production company. So we're lucky we found each other. He's Aboriginal mum, white dad, but he grew up with his white dad. I grew up with my black mum, so we came together and found family, and and I went, oh, that's what it's like to grow up with a white dad. So we sort of really gelled and helped one another, and he's amazing support to have that, because there'll be mornings where I just go, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to go and clean toilets, and he'd go, no, come on, we can do this, get up, let's go. And we're a great team, and we support one another. And in Mergen, where I came from, you either were going to be a nurse or work at the meatworks. And I said I wanted to be an actor, and everyone thought I was crazy. But hey, here I am with my own production company, debuting my feature film at South by Southwest, Austin, Texas.
That's amazing. And I want everyone to see the trailer for that right now. So this is for The Drover's Wife, Legend of Molly Johnson.
Where are the others? Did you say something? Where are your brothers and sisters?
Miss Shirley told that judge fella, got us octoroons. What's that, Ma?
It's your coat.
Little teaser.
I love that. And I mean, I know you have already had a buyer pick up this title with Samuel Goldwyn Films.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, for all filmmakers, that is the goal, to get the project seen in the festival circuit and then ultimately bought or monetized in some way. What was that process like for you, getting Samuel Goldwyn on board?
Well, it was late at night when I was ready to go to bed because of the time difference in everyone talking in the world, and we get this phone call from our co-producers, and we should pick this up. And they said, Sam, Goldman wants to buy our film, and well, we didn't go to bed that night. So we sort of did a few cartwheels around the house, and yeah, we were thrilled, you know. And then we calmed down and then, you know, spoke about it, and we just thought it'd be great. And they also, you know, they said, we want to look at how we can help project your or progress your film career. And I thought that was really that's lovely to be not just a product, but it was just great. Like, you know, I'm just keep praying to the ancestors that the blessings keep coming, and I, you know, you got to leave it out there.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think with your film, you did something really smart in identifying a genre, whether or not this was intentional or not, but that buyers are coveting right now. And the buyers are directly influenced by what the platforms are searching for. And Westerns continue to do really well with domestic audiences. And it is not often that we see a female director behind Westerns. So it's a little bit of a holy grail on the distribution side. And were you aware of the audience's desire, or did you just feel that Western was the best medium for this story?
Yeah, I felt that Western was the best medium. You know, it allowed me to really go there with the brutality, and what happens to her of those times here in Australia. There's an Aboriginal character in it as well, which I based on my great-grandfather, and I looked at his records, diaries that were made by superiors of those times, and the language that was used. So I said, if I could place it back in the Western, I can really go there. And then, of course, you do your homework and you see what was happening. I had this idea before some of the other Australian influenced Westerns came out, and they just were beating me. And I was like, oh no, you know, will it be too saturated? Will I get lost? But thankfully, I put it up in the snowy mountains here in Australia. People don't realize we actually have green grass, and it does snow in this country. It's not so hot and dusty, which are a lot of the films come out, because they come out of the Alice Springs Central. So when I started to show, we went to Cairns 2018, where we picked up Memento International Films as our international distributors. And they had done a few Westerns, and they went, and then I said, well, it's a female protagonist, and look at all this greenery, look at and then they went, this is Australia? And I said, yeah, 5 hours out of Sydney. So that worked in our favor, and I'm proud of it, and I'm just glad she's out there now doing her thing.
Oh, we are so glad too. We are so glad too. I love a Western. God, I love that genre so much.
And I grew up on that as well. Like, we're in the country town, you only had 2 channels. So on a Sunday afternoon, I would sit down and watch spaghetti Westerns with my mother, and wondered why the poor Indians lost all the time, you know. So I went, but I'm on their side, you know. But yeah, so in mine, I just wanted to put that Indigenous to the forefront.
Absolutely. Speaking of genres, these are some questions from our student body. Christina McDonald asks if you notice any patterns, either by different studios or genres of films, that do a better job at connecting and representing the female critical voice and audience. And this is for the whole panel, so whoever would like to jump in. No takers.
That's a tricky one. I think, yeah, I couldn't say naming one. I just think it is what's bubbling under the surface, and, you know, if it's right for the time, then it's right. I think you have to be one step ahead and foresee where the industry might be heading, and get in with your ideas, and then you'll have that opportunity to be seen and picked up.
I don't know if I can say that I feel like there's a genre per se, because I actually think that women as filmmakers and content creators, I think it's just actually starting to bubble up. I think that, you know, we haven't really had the decades and decades at the forefront of storytelling in this way. So I think in 10 years, I think we'd probably be better able to answer that question, you know. But I think what's terrific is that all the genres are opening up. So it's not, you know, I think, for example, perhaps documentary filmmaking might have been easier for women because it's less expensive, there's less risk by you know, studios and such, and but I think that now the recognition of the female voice, what that actually looks like, what that feels like, what we bring to the table, I think that's actually reshaping things. And then, of course, as a Black woman, I think that the voice of Black folks and Black women are actually going to become so much more powerful in the coming years, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and Jen, that's such a wonderful point, because South by Southwest this year has more than 50% of the directors are women, which is amazing. And the programmers are definitely trying to adjust to that disparity that's existed for a long time, and trying to have voices that are more representative of our cultural makeup. But then, I mean, we were looking at this USC Annenberg study on executives and buyers, and that disparity still exists on the buyer's end. So while the programmers are 50-50, the people who are actually purchasing the films, at least in the top 5 festivals, it's only 30% who are women. And are you guys feeling that on your end as far as interest from buyers, or what that relationship is beyond the festival programmers who are finally giving female filmmakers that opportunity?
Oh, you're asking some real questions here.
I'm loading these in.
These are loaded. Yeah, you know, okay, so this is my first feature too. And what I have noticed is, and I want to add critics in that too. I mean, thank God we've been getting really good reviews from men and women, but this is just in general. Like we knew this before. This actually was a discussion at USC Cinema as well, as about reviews, because like I remember just looking on Netflix the other day, and Eat, Pray, Love came up on the list, and it had like a 27 splat on Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, Eat, Pray, Love? I loved the film. And I'm like, man, this had to be reviewed by men. And we need to, like, there needs to be more balance in those areas, and executives and in the buyers and the critics. We need to start shifting into there. I know from my experience, it's been pretty, so for our people who were interested in being our sales agents when we first come into the festival, they predominantly men. I think there's only like one woman that was in the list of people who were contacting us. And I would say that most of the men were open-minded. They weren't like machismo, but let me tell you, the machismo cats, they still exist. And like, I remember one guy was like, yeah, you know, we'll do you a favor and we'll represent your movie. Do you a favor? Like, we were like, why'd you even call us? We didn't call you, you called us. And he was like, yeah, I don't really even see this really going anywhere. Like, it's cool you got into the festival, but you know, you seem like you have potential, so I'll do you a favor. And it was just so, and there was another person who had that same sort of attitude, and I call that like the old guard. That's like old Hollywood. And I was just speaking at Howard University yesterday about this, and how it's really our job now. It's you sitting in the audience now to really be the ones to lobby and make the shift not only for more women in the field, more people of color, more balance. And we're not trying to get rid of white men. White men are great. We just want them to be allies and understand that there are other voices here too. And also the main thing is just bringing kindness into our industry. Like that old Hollywood where you need to put other people down to make you feel better, it needs to shift, and we need to move out of that. And I really think it's us, it's now, it's the people that are in school now coming up that are going to shift that. But yeah, it's there. And I know that personally, I'm seeing it firsthand being in a festival, my world premiere, and I'm sure we'll probably see more of it. But thank God we've been getting more positivity than anything else. But you know, it's changing. It's just like Jen said. It's not she said like 10 years later we might be able to look back and answer this question better. But this is the change. Now is the shift, and now is where we're starting to take those statistics and data and see where we're going.
Yeah, I would like to add something to there, Kelley, because I think it's very interesting what you're saying. And in my case, especially with our film Luchadoras, we have a sales agent, Rise and Shine, and it's deal by Stephen Kloss and Diana and Anya. So we have two women on the company who are super powerful and who have really understand the movie, and they really understand the feminist message which is in the movie, and they are representing the film, I think, in a way that for us as a filmmakers is super important. So I do agree with you that we are in times where things are changing, and it's not only the men taking decisions, like the women are also there, and they are also, you know, there for us with our topics and our ideas. So yeah.
I love that. I just want to give CherryPicks a quick shout out for a second, because that's why, Kelley, hearing you speak, that's why we created the company, was to, you know, collect reviews from female and non-binary film critics, because it's still such a male-dominated game, and it's all connected, right? If the critics, you know, bash a film, then it may not be able to get that distribution to get into the market, and it's so important. So
and just building those allies. Like I keep like we had a discussion. I had a few discussions with like my white male friends, especially during like Oscars So White and everything like that. They were like, we feel like, they're like, we support this, but we feel that we get clumped into these other groups of men who are like the boys club, and they don't include. And I'm like, yeah, and that's why you need to be vocal, and that's why you need to watch other films outside of what's the norm and what's the blockbusters. And so as you move and grow in the industry, you're going to be those game changers, so that anyone sitting in the audience, any young white male sitting in the audience, it's you guys who are going to help to shift things and to help balance things out. And you guys, it's all training. We all grow up watching certain films, and that's what we're conditioned to be the norm. If we start to condition that diversity is the norm, then the next people coming up, that's just what it's going to be. We're just reprogramming a system that has been one-sided for a very long time. And it's really just about doing what you guys are doing at CherryPick, and having these discussions, and supporting and talking to your friends, particularly white males, and encouraging them and to be an ally. Like, we don't need to beat up everybody. Like, everyone's not an enemy. And so the ones that are doing well, bring them along with you. Bring them, like, it's a team effort. And again, that just all goes back to my whole thing about kindness and inclusivity and all of that.
Yeah, but Kelley, that's such a wonderful point, because if we're wanting to see that change happen in the industry, it does need to start with the consumers, because the buyers are listening to what the platforms are saying is selling and what's being consumed. And so I actually think that female filmmakers have an advantage in the fact that a lot of times they do have to be more frugal. They don't have access to the same investor pool, but in doing so, you also are in a better position with an industry that's changing so rapidly, and the ability to monetize titles is changing, where it's not like it used to be, where you're just seeing money gushing in. Like, you're having to be really smart and very entrepreneurial in your approach. And at the same time, all four of you are offering a perspective and allowing us to see it through a lens that we don't get to see often. And so it feels fresh and it feels different. And that's amazing to have in such a saturated marketplace. So I think everyone who's listening, make sure you continue to support these filmmakers, and the buyers will do so as well.
Amen.
I know we have a bunch of student questions, so I don't want to, and I'll throw a couple softballs in there too. They won't all be the really hard punching ones. So several of you have actually starred in your own films. And Nicole Ellis said, how do you find and choose which productions would be both worth your time and are able to send important messages to the audience?
Well, I guess for me, that's the Drover's Wife, The Legend of Molly Johnson, was a story that was very close to me. 45 years I've had it with me. My mum would read it to me. So when I started doing that, and I wrote it first as a play because I was a frustrated director in a writer's workshop, and I went, maybe it's time to sit down and write, don't take it out on them. And I've always written my own lead roles because I'm very activist in my talk for my Indigenous issues, and then I'm fair. They didn't quite know where to put me or where I sat. So I said, if anyone is going to write a lead role for me, then I'll do it myself. So I've done that with my own work and my own stories that are truthfully to me, so I know them. So it gives me a leg up. I can be the best that I can be. And so I've acted on other things, but for my feature, I guess I wanted to do my first lead in a story that I had control over.
Can I just say that I haven't obviously acted in anything. I know that I'm not an actress. I know that because I am way too self-conscious. And when I started to do, in fact, in all the films I've made, I don't think I've ever made it on screen. However, even with this documentary, 2 of my daughters are in the film. And, you know, there's a round table in the film with a bunch of young women. And you know, and I did really have to consider if I was going to narrate the film, if I was going to be one of the voices in the film. And you know, at the end of the day, because I really wanted to give the platform for other women, but, you know, I think I put so much of myself in the film, and even putting my children, it felt like a personal statement. It was like a personal connection, you know, because the story was that important. And then just because I'm a writer, in fact, I've been writing for probably definitely longer than I've been directing. And I've created a couple of series up here, and written feature films. And that's where, for me, like the ability to drive the story, to drive what gets made, you know, it was just really frustrating for me to look around and see the difficulty in seeing more diversity on screen, you know, seeing myself on screen, or, you know, or women and people that look like me. So for me, more so than acting, writing has been a really safe and amazing space for me to create the narrative that we get to absorb. And so, yeah, so it's really an important factor, I think, personally.
Yeah, 100% with that, Jen. For me, I'm super gut driven. If my gut is saying this is it, then there's no question, I'm just doing it. Now, you don't always get those gut driven. Sometimes you get, it's like, I'm excited, but it's like that middle gray and you're like, I don't know what to do. But with that, I just say to, when you're not sure like what stories to tell, to just spend time with it, sit with it. And then I also will go away from it for a little bit and see if there's something else that I'm missing. And then sometimes it's the timing. And then when I come back, something happened in my life that is that story that I was sort of gray on. And now I know what piece to put in there. But when you do have that gut feeling, that's, I just go for it. That's how I pick my stories. And if the story moves me, if I get excited, then that's usually how I go with the choices. As for acting, this one came out of necessity. It was the pandemic and we had to keep the crew small to 10 or less. And that's why we had to have the crew members acting in the movie. So, but to Leah's point, there's, so I'm mixed too, black and white. And I would go, but I was raised Black and I would go out for Black roles because I am union, I'm SAG. I did do a lot of theater before, not really on screen stuff. And I would go out for Black roles and they'd be like, oh no, we asked for a Black woman. Like, we come in a rainbow. Okay. Thank you, everyone. But I wouldn't get those roles and because they didn't write for it. So that's to Jen's point about you've got to write yourself in these stories or write stories if you're not going to act in it for the group of people that you're not seeing represented. You have to take things into your own hands. You can't sit around and wait for the world to change. I'm gonna quote John Mayer over here. You've got to go and change the world yourself. So if you see a problem in cinema that certain groups aren't being represented, you got to take the action. And you see like there's all of these women on the panel are people who took the action to show an underrepresented group of people. Now, whether they chose to take the role because like Leah, she knew that she was the one that could tell the story and emote the story the best. I did mine out of necessity, but truthfully, that's kind of just what I think I did. But all of this took place in my hometown. It took place in a with around people who are houseless and homeless. And I'm a pastor's daughter, and our whole mission with my father was housing the homeless. So it I think you kind of gravitate to stories that are in your heart, whether you know it or not. You might be thinking you're just doing this because you have to, but anything that moves you it's a reflection of who you are and what you've learned. And kind of going back to what I said in the very beginning, that every experience you have in school, out of school, goes into your storytelling, whether you know it or not half the time. So.
Absolutely. The best stories create empathy and change and educate. Speaking of, Cameron Slocum has a question for Paola. Asks, what kind of changes do you hope your film sparks?
Oh, that's a very nice question. I mean, okay, so, okay, let's begin small. I would like my film Luchadoras is a film about female fighters in Ciudad Juarez. And I would like people who feel in a kind of difficult situation, people who think that they are being treated not the right way, people who are in a fight and they don't feel the power to fight. I would like these people to take this film as an inspiration, to understand that you can fight and you can win. You can win every fight you want. And I want people to be inspired by this woman, because these women have really, really difficult life situations, but they manage to fight against that. And they manage to say, we don't want this, we want a change. So this will be like, let's say in a smaller way, well, it's not that small, it's actually already big enough. And then in another way, in another level, actually, I would like people to talk. I want men and women to sit down and talk about what it means to be a woman in 2021 and what it means to be a man in 2021. And I want to talk about gender roles. I want people to talk about and to understand that the roles we believe or the roles we have, they are learned from our culture. It's not something that it's in DNA, and we can change them. We can change all of that. And we have to stop thinking, and that's the most difficult thing, because, okay, we have to stop thinking that men are superior to women, and men have to stop thinking about that, and women have to stop thinking about that. And it's very difficult because it's very deep in the way we understand the world. And it takes time. It takes time to sit down, to talk, to exchange, talk about the feelings and hear the feelings of the others. This is a thing, I don't know, I think our societies that are so fast and you're, okay, likes, go, boom, 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 boom. And you don't sit down and think, okay, how do I feel? How did this conversation make me feel? And I think we have to go back to this, and we have to open our ears, open our hearts, and find a dialogue, and be aware that the way the world is structured, whatever system we are in, it's based on machismo, it's based on sexism. Women are treated differently than men. Women's words and women's actions are less valuated than men's actions and men's words. And this is a fact. And this is something, you know, I grew up with my twin brother. So it was a boy and a girl from the beginning. My parents told us boys and girls are the same. I went to this wonderful film school. We were 3 girls, 3 women on the cinematography and 3 men. So it was always equal. But then I came out into the film industry and into the world, let's say, and I realized, all right, there is something, it's not the way I thought it was. And it really happened to me. Like I will say, like 5 years ago, I began to realize in what kind of world do we live in. And it's not the same everywhere. You know, the problems in Mexico are different than the problems in Germany or in Spain or, you know, whatever. But we have to be aware. We have to be aware of the structures we live in, and we have to talk about it, and we have to make the change first in the intimacy, with your father, with your brother, with your friend, and then trying to build up something to make a change. We have to make a change, and we have to be aware of that.
Oh gosh, Paola, that is so true. And I hope that everyone goes home, whether it's morning for you, night for you, students at home, everyone just has these conversations, even if they're rough at first or awkward, just have them, get in there, because that's how you create change. That's how it starts, by conversations. And just all 4 of you, glorious filmmakers, that's what you've done in each one of your films, is you've created a platform to start conversations. And that's the magic of storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question, and this was a repeat question from a couple of students. So I would love to have all of you answer this. Christina McDonald is one of them. She said, what advice do you have for young women working towards a career in this industry? And Joe Shiro similarly said, what advice do the panelists have for emerging content producers in the digital age? So either one of those questions, we would love to hear your responses.
There was something I heard Catherine Hardwick say one time. This is to answer the woman question. Someone asked her, how does it feel being a female director and you're winning this and you're doing that? And she was like, I don't think of myself as a female director. I think of myself as a director. So it's going back to what Paola was just saying, is that we have to, again, reprogram our thinking and go forward as humans. So whatever it is that you want to do, you want to produce, you want to write, you want to direct, you want to act, whatever it is, you want to be a cinematographer, just go as you're you, and do the best that you can, and remove those social norms and negative programming that is hindering you. Anything that's telling you that you're less than, or that you might not be as good as, and this goes for guys too, because it's like, sure, men were in this industry, it's more male dominant, but there's men on this call right now, I'm sure, that still have self-esteem issue, wondering if they're good enough, maybe coming from a family that doesn't do film or art. And then they're told, you're not an artist. Why are you doing that? Go get your law degree or whatever it may be. Just know that you are good enough, and that no one has the same path in this industry. There's no real answer that any of us can give you that's going to say, yeah, so this is what you need to do to be successful. You need to this, and this. Everyone has their own journey and their own steps. But the one thing that I can say that will help you get to the goals that you're trying to obtain in this industry is to remove all those social expectations, norms, anything that is making you feel less than, and to have tenacity and grit, because it's again, like Paola said earlier, she was like, yeah, I had a film. It was in theaters. I was like, this is it. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, you guys, where's my next big thing? And that's why you can't rest on your laurels. You cannot. You have to, like, this is great. We're all enjoying South by, but boy, on Monday, trust, we are all hitting the ground running on the next project. You cannot stop. So you have to have that tenacity. You have to have that grit, and you have to set goals in a way, but I don't want you to get locked into one thing. Like, I got to be the best at this. Like, set small goals. So like, we wanted to make a film this year, right? 2020, want to make a film 2020. Okay, that's a goal. So set up, like, how do I do that? I got to get my friends together. Okay, where do I get money? Like, just do small goals. And you'll see when you start to look back, you've been moving, you've been stepping forward. So just set your eyes right on the goal that you set in front of you. It doesn't have to be so massive, and you're going to get to the bigger picture eventually, but you've got to keep moving. Do not be stagnant. Figure out something. If you don't have any ideas, go on a friend's set and volunteer. Keep being active, because you going to someone's set you might start talking to someone else, and then you guys get an idea there, and you've got to stay in the mix. You have to have that grit and know that nothing is instantaneous. Very rarely is it ever. Most people that you think made it like overnight did not. Even if they're 20, I bet you they've been singing or doing whatever since they were 6 years old. Nobody makes it overnight, okay? So you need to understand that and keep going if this is what you want to do. And really, that's it. Your path is your path, and know that you're enough, because no one can tell your stories. No one has the ability. No one can be you, and your story can impact so many other lives. So just be you, release all the programming that's holding you back, and do your best to move forward. And that takes practice, but just be aware.
I could jump in a little bit. That was great, Kelley. So many wonderful nuggets in there. But the thing is, I think that for me, all of that applies. All of that has applied in my life. But one other thing I think is that I have had an inability to understand no. And so people be saying no to me. I'd be like, what are they talking about? And I think you have to move in the world where you're like, what? No, like just you move on and you're like, okay, there is another way. Whatever is happening, whatever someone is saying, if it is not the thing you want and you really believe in it, then you will find another way. And I think for women, not necessarily myself, but I know this is also a thing where sometimes we think someone is gonna save us and maybe get that going for you in some way. I have never relied on that. I've always relied on my ability to move the needle and to change the situation to something more favorable. And like I said, I did not go to film school. I figured everything out. So that, I mean, all the things Kelley has said, the tenaciousness, all of these things, it is actually not rocket science. And I think like the wonderful Malcolm Gladwell said something about like you have to 10,000 hours to perfect the thing, and there is, you put the time in and you ignore the no's and you just keep at it. And without a doubt, I feel like it is almost impossible not to get where you want to go. It might take longer, right? It might be shorter for some people, it might take longer, but it will happen. And so it's all in you. That's what I know, right? Because as my mom, single mom who raised me for the most part, we did not have money, did not have any of those advantages. And and so I look around, I'm like, yeah, no, it's okay, because my inability to understand no.
Ditto, and ditto to all of that. Absolutely. You got to be proactive. You got to believe in yourself. When someone closed a door in front of me, I went through the window. There's a back door. I caught them at the bank. Take opportunities, create opportunities.
Paola, I think you just muted yourself. Go ahead. Yeah. Wait. No, you muted yourself again. There you go.
It's very late here, that's why. Okay, so I wanted to say, everything was said already. Perseverance is very important. You have to think, to make a film, it's going to take a long, long, long time, and you have to be there the whole time, and just trust yourself and just make it real, make it happen. And there is one thing I also think we have to think about, and there's something that I didn't thought about when I began, and it's about what is the value of our work? What is the price of our work? I think this is a very important question. Like, you have to learn to evaluate yourself. You have to learn to know how much cost the work that you're making. And it's good that you talk to people, how much money do they get? Talk to men, talk to women, and you will see the difference. Talk to everyone, get as much advice as you can, and learn from the beginning how much your work is. It doesn't mean that you're gonna get it at the end, because maybe you're making a, I don't know, no budget or low budget production, and then, okay, there is no money, but you have to be aware of how much is your price. And this is something super important. Like, you have to be aware of this position in your career from the beginning, because I was not from the beginning, and this is very, very important.
Such incredible advice. Oh, all of you, such wonderful, incredible advice. Thank you so much for sharing. I think I'll hand it over to Nikki and Heather.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I wish we could keep going with you guys, because we have so many more questions to ask, but this was amazing. And I appreciate you fielding all of the hard-hitting questions that we were throwing at you, but it's really important for the students to understand the festival landscape, and especially when you are a filmmaker who's really championing underrepresented voices and are using film as a conduit for change. Those are all things that we respect about all four of you, and are so grateful that you took time out of your virtual South by Southwest experience to spend it with us.
Yes, thank you so much, ladies. What a privilege, what an honor to speak to you today. Truly.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us. This is great. It was lovely also to talk with the women. Oh my God, like the filmmakers. I was like, what?
I can't wait. I'm about to go watch all your films now. I'm like, yep,
like
I'm watching that.
Yeah.
Each other.
We have to do it now.
Oh,
Thank you
we're
for
all
connecting.
actually together. But alas, it's 6:30. So we've been talking for a really long, incredible time, and it could go on for hours. Seriously, all I can say is, wow, incredible panel. I'm so grateful to Jen and Paola and Kelley and Lee for all your insightful and thoughtful, provoking conversation, and for really being out there to inspire our students. And thanks so much to Meg and Nikki. What a wonderful team for our co-host as well. I did want to invite everyone out there still. We had over 50 viewers on YouTube tonight live, so that's a fantastic number. So keep following us. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Next Friday, March 26th at 4 o'clock, we're going to be welcoming Indigenous filmmaker Tracy Rector for a panel. It's going to be fantastic. And this is going to continue for the rest of the spring semester. We've got about 4 more events, which are going to be all very unique, different topics. So I encourage you to follow us at dmd.uconn.edu/diverse, and you can see the full lineup on that page. Thanks to our wizards and organizers behind the scenes and everybody who worked on this to get this together. And most of all, thanks to everybody out there in the YouTube audience for watching. And you had some beautiful comments. We'll have to share them with all of you ladies afterwards as well. And I hope all of you feel so incredibly inspired and excited and feel the energy that we all felt through the screens here in Zoom room. So stay safe, wear a mask, and thanks for coming tonight. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Ciao to you all.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
That was